Going to be making a chocolate log today. Really simple, really fast recipe. Now what we're going to do, we are going to cheat a little bit because I'm going to use this sort of ready-made Swiss roll, which is really like a sort of chocolatey sponge, and it's all rolled up and you've got this vanilla sort of cream inside, so it's really yummy in itself. Obviously you can make your own, just takes more time. We're trying to make a fast recipe today. Now we are going to be making our own chocolate icing to go on top of this log. Now really easy again. What we're going to use is 5 ounces of icing sugar, 3 ounces of margarine and 1 ounce of cocoa powder. Now if you don't want your icing quite as sweet, what you could do is you could reduce the icing sugar by 1 ounce and you could increase the cocoa powder by 1 ounce. So it kind of balances it all up and do it to taste. But I'm using 5 ounces, 3 ounces, 1 ounce. So I'm going to clear the decks and make up that chocolate icing. So I've got myself a bowl there just to mix it up in. Put in the margarine and put in the icing sugar, all of that, and then we've got the cocoa powder. Mix that up until it's all nice and smooth. It's ready to use. So I'm going to use a wooden spoon for that. I mean, I'm sure any spoon would be alright. Just try and break this down and just keep doing it until you mix it all up. So I'll keep breaking this down and mixing it until we get it nice and smooth. Now I've been mixing mine around for about 4 minutes, and this is roughly how it's gonna, be. You see, it's quite sort of almost dryish and hasn't sort of become liquid yet. Now what I'm going to do is add just a little bit of hot water out of the kettle, but I mean a small amount. You can always add a little bit and you can add a bit more, so we just pop some of that in and mix it up. And what you need to do is to get it to, how you feel that you'll be happy spreading it. So you don't want it too runny, but then you don't want it too thick. Give it a good rub, mix it all in sort of with the spoon. And if you feel you need to add a little bit more, you can, because you've got to spread it over the top of the log. So you don't want it too thick and obviously not too dry as well. I'm just going to add a little bit more. And again, give that a mix up, just really until it's all nice. Look at that, starting to look good now. It's amazing what a bit of hot water does. So I'll just quickly carry on stirring that. Just make sure there's no lumps in there really. Make sure it's all nicely mixed up. Look at that, beautiful. Right, so I'm going to leave that aside and get on with the chocolate log. So I've got the chocolate log there, and what I'm going to do is whip it out of the packet, and we're going to kind of measure it up. I've got this sort of base, a nice silvery base that we're going to lay it all on, but I want to cut a branch as well, so we're going to use the other packet to make the branch. So we've got the first part, the trunk, whip that out, just lay that there, get it all lined up. Actually, I'll put that in the middle. So I've got the two laid side by side. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the actual branch. Now I'm going to cut the branch. What I suggest is you start at this end, kind of line it up. I can see there's a line right across there, so I'm just going to chop that down there and see if I've got it about right. So I'm just going to lift that bit out there. Take it out. And we just turn that around. Now, there you go. Now what I will do is I'll just trim this little bit here, so just trim that off there. And there you go, you've got a chocolate log, and you can cover that all with nice, chocolate icing all over it, and it'll look absolutely beautiful. Now what you can do is, I've got a little bowl of the hot water from the kettle, so the spoon's quite warm, and we can use that to actually lift up this sort of chocolate icing, and it just makes it easier to come off the spoon. So really just put splodges all the way around. We don't want it too thick though, so you do need to spread it. And what you can do is if you just open this up here, you can squash a little bit down, and that kind of that's like a bit of a glue, but obviously it is using up some of that chocolate. That's it, just helps to sort of squash it together really. So just keep spreading this along. How's it looking? A little bit like a branch, and you've got the main sort of stem of the tree. It's looking good actually. I like it. I mean, obviously if you're quite creative, I'm sure you can do a much better job than I am. So I'm now coming to the end of the pot. Look, we're starting to run out of stuff there, so I'm going to scrape the bottom of that and try and get it all out and spread this around. You don't want it too thin, and obviously you want to cover around the sides, because when they're looking at it, depending what angle they're looking at, you know, you want to make sure there's a bit of that chocolatey stuff on there. So don't have big clumps somewhere and none the other places. Kind of enjoying this actually. Let's make a little bit of a, look at that. I am going to use a fork because I want to sort of finish it off a little bit, but I'm trying to make it look a little bit rough. I think we're nearly done at the moment, so I'm going to put it onto that silver board and just finish it off with a fork. And if it's, again, you know, if you need to sort of put the spoon back in hot water, do that, because it just helps to smooth it out, you know, it sort of melts the margarine a little bit. So we've got the icing on the Swiss roll. Now what I'm going to do is transfer it onto the silver board I've got, or if you've got a big white plate, or, you know, a chopping board with tin foil on, whatever makes it look nice and presentable, pop it onto there next, and we're just going to finish it off with a few little details. Now when you transfer it, try and use a big knife or something to sort of scoop underneath and try and lift it up very carefully so you can get it on there without it sort of breaking up, and you know, you want to keep it the same sort of shape as it is now. So I've transferred it onto this sort of silver plate. It's a bit of cardboard really with a sort of silver topping. Now I'm just spreading that last little bit of chocolate that I scooped out that bowl. I'm just going to run that along there. Like I say, it doesn't matter if it's not absolutely perfect, because a tree is not absolutely perfect. So we'll just now use a fork and try and make it look like bark. Now I'm just going to use a fork. You can just do it kind of wavy, and sometimes, you know how trees have these sort of knots, like little circles, you know, pop one of those in. And at the same time, you're kind of spreading out any of that chocolate icing sugar. And when you've done it, you know, if you're not happy with it, you can always have another go. Now we're also going to sprinkle just a little bit of icing sugar on it, because it makes it a little bit more Christmassy. A little bit of white icing sugar. So, you know, that's it, done. Obviously, if you want to spend a bit more time, you can make it look really good. Now the next thing I'm going to add is a little bit of that icing sugar. I'm using a kind of sieve just so that I don't get big lumps on it. You can see, you can sort of put it on there, give it a sprinkle and a shake. It just makes it really nice and Christmassy. You know, you haven't got to just make this Christmas, make it whenever you like. Put a little bit on the board. You know, put as much as you want. It's a little bit of snow really, isn't it? There you go, a bit more there. That looks great. Now we've got it looking a bit Christmassy. Might as well go the whole hog. Look at that. Put a little bit of holly on there. Got a little bit there as well. Just pop that in. And then finally, I've got one of these little robins. Quite hard to find this actually. I've been really looking around for one of these. Took me ages. So I'm just going to pop that in. Traditional English robin. Beautiful bird. Really friendly. Look at that cake. Doesn't that look beautiful? Now I'm not going to eat any of the cake, but I'm just going to nick a little bit off there, because I want to show you that's that sort of chocolatey icing. I know this recipe works. It's absolutely delicious. Let me try that. You can't go wrong with that. That is so simple, so quick, and it looks absolutely beautiful. Just the last thing, I'm just going to kind of turn it around for you so you can kind of see the ends. I'd say if you've got enough chocolate, you can always put a little bit on the end if you want, but it looks quite nice like that. I think the whole thing looks really lovely. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy, and if you want to subscribe, I really appreciate that. And thanks for all your comments, and anyone who sort of rates the videos, always appreciated. Happy Christmas, happy Thanksgiving.